War. War is a troublesome thing. There are countless casualties, great financial costs, collateral damage, and then you have to deal with the aftermath. And these wars aren't often the matters of the common people who die in them. They are caused by the petty squabbles and covetous ambitions of lords much higher than them. But why suffer through all this mess? Instead of wading through armies and forts, why not just send an artist of violence right to the top of the command chain? Assassins have long been used throughout all of Tamriel's history to silently remove problems. The death of a leader has a profound effect on morale, eliminating the hopes and dreams of his loyal followers. If the king is killed before he can announce an independent province, well, I guess the empire keeps a vassal kingdom with a new king more suited to their imperial preferences. With recent news of the Emperor's death at the hands of the Dark Brotherhood, you may be thinking of them first and foremost. Dark and evil, murder for murder's sake kind of assassins, worshipping their Dreadfather and Night Mother, the darkest of darkly dark. This edgy cult of assassins may be the talk of the town right now, but there is another group with a far more storied history, an ancient guild dedicated to an even older Daedra, who kill to preserve peace in the land of Morrowind. A group that has been in operation since that same land was known as Resdayn, a time before the Dunmer, before the Dwemer, before the first empire of Nords, before Elysia and her rebellion. Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Scott from FudgeMuppet, and today I present to you the infamous Morag Tong Explained. Please do give the video a like if you enjoy it, and also subscribe for more of this cool Elder Scrolls lore. But without further ado, let's take a walk back to the beginning. In the Merethic era, the followers of the prophet Veloth took heed from his teachings and embarked on an exodus to Resdayn, becoming the Chimer people, the changed folk. Here, with the teachings of the good Daedra, Azura, Mephala, and Boethia, they founded a new culture, a new society with different ways of thinking, a far cry from the rigid dogmas of the Oldmer on Somerset. But in particular, it was Mephala, the web spinner, Daedric prince of sex, lies, and murder, who guided the Chimer in the formation of the houses. The benefits of individuality amongst the various houses was clear to Mephala. Each would develop their own subcultures and different ways of approaching life, and by the Third Era you can see how vastly different each of the great houses are. But surely this was just a recipe for societal divide, resulting in nothing but war and suffering. As an outsider looking in, you may think it to be a cruel trick to torture your followers in such a way, but when you look at how the Chimer saw it, you will get a different story. The Chimer followed the Sigic endeavor, and rather than see Lorkhan as a betrayer and mortality as a curse, they chose to see mortality as a test, a challenge to triumph. Inbuilt and layered throughout all of their culture is this theme of overcoming, hence why they need to compete with one another as different houses, so they can be challenged, adapt, and overcome. But of course, this principle sounds nice in theory, but what happens if one house just wipes out all of the others and gains monopoly on the culture? Well, Mephala foresaw this, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is why she created the ancient order of assassins, the Morag Tong. Disputes and aggression between the houses were inevitable. In fact, it was desired, for this brought challenge and growth, but it had to be conducted in a way that did not end in all-out warfare, which was far too destructive. A form of controlled challenge was needed. This is where the Morag Tong come in. They are a strictly impartial and legally sanctioned assassins guild. Instead of a house declaring war on another, they instead approach the Morag Tong and request the assassination of someone, be it a political opponent or someone who disrespected them. If the proper methods of proposal and payment are made, as well as the reasons for the execution deemed valid by a guild hall master or the Grand Master, then the Morag Tong Guild, as permitted by law, will print legal bills known as honorable writs of execution. Then a skilled Tong assassin will be assigned to then hunt down and kill the target. Upon execution, the Tong agent will present themselves to the authority with the writ of execution in hand, legally absolving them of the murder. All Tong members are expected to do this, even if the killing would have remained a mystery otherwise. This way, everything is clear, legal, and there is leaves no possibility for long-term ramifications. Tong agents who do not present themselves to authorities, along with the writ of execution, are often considered suspect and will likely be subject to major internal investigations. The Morag Tong prides themselves as an ancient sacred order vital to the preservation of a cooperative society. Therefore, it is paramount that they operate with this strict code and method. The Morag Tong are no criminals, nor do they harbor any. Secondary killings, theft, or other crimes committed are not protected by the writ of execution, so an agent of efficacy and diligence is needed. Interestingly, in the Dunmeris language, Morag Tong literally translates to Forester's Guild. You may be wondering what forests have to do with anything they do, but we can actually find the reasoning for this in our real world's history. Foresters in medieval times were akin to a sheriff or local law enforcer who would patrol the woodlands tasked with duties such as negotiating sales of lumber, stopping illegal hunting by poaching, and of course dealing with outlaws who utilized the heavy forested regions for hiding. Of course, the connection to the real-world medieval occupation is loose, but the Morag Tong are in ways arbiters of law, impartial and code-bound. On occasion, the Tong assassins have had duties that lie outside writs, such as hunting outlaws, Dark Brotherhood members, and Mehrunes Dagon worshippers, but it should be noted that for the most part, their job entails assassinations as per the directives of the writ. Beyond their utility as impartial, legally sanctioned assassins, a duty which they treat as most sacred, there is far more to the Morag Tong on a cultural level. You see, it's no secret that the Morag Tong both was founded by and is dedicated to the Daedric prince Mephala. There is an artistry to murder and deception that the Tong revere, and Mephala exemplifies this. As known in the West, Mephala is the demon prince of murder, sex, and secrets. All of these themes contain subtle aspects and violent ones: assassination, genocide, courtship, orgy, tact, poetic truths. Mephala is understood paradoxically to contain and integrate these contradictory themes. Most unfortunately, we are not privy to the nuances of all the Morag Tong's cultural practices, but by simply reflecting on what Mephala's sphere encompasses, we can put two and two together. Writs from the First Era often contained bits of poetry acting as a code for assassination details, including name, time, and places. Examples of such are lisping sibilant hisses, Ether's sweet sway, rancid kiss of passing sin, and other strange, almost insane insertions. We could assume that outside of murder and secrets, sex also plays its part in the guild, but we have no idea in what way. Perhaps some under the covers group worship, if you know what I'm saying. But jokes aside, sex is a useful tool for deception, leveraging the lust of others in order to get close to a target or achieve your goal. But what would life be like as an agent of the Morag Tong? Of course, experience would vary depending on which era of history we are talking about, but let's discuss in the most general sense. The ranks within the guild are Associate, Blind Thrall, Thrall, White Thrall, Thinker, and then finally a ranking Brother, which is followed by the position of Knower and then Master, which at that point you may be running a local guild hall. Then above that is Exalted Master, and finally for a rare few, you may become Grand Master of the Morag Tong. Your life as a Morag Tong assassin would, as you can expect, be filled with assassinations as directed by the Honourable Writs, but should you live through all of your years of capable service and no longer be able to perform your work, or if you become too high profile an assassin, such as the case with Agent Corda, then you will be sent to the island of Venaura, no more than a month's voyage from Tel Arun. Here, a comfortable and peaceful existence will be experienced until the end of your days. Since its earliest years, Morrowind has had the Morag Tong keeping the peace between the houses through impartial assassination. This institution persisted through the transition from Kaima to Dunmer, from Daedra to Tribunal. When the living gods Almalexia, Vivec, and Sothosil arose, the good Daedra were dubbed the Anticipations, merely ancestral gods of a crueler, harsher time, to be anticipated and succeeded by the loving patronage of the Tribunal. However, the Morag Tong, unlike the rest of Morrowind, remained devoted to Mephala above all. The Tribunal seemed to tolerate this, as the ancient guild were the immutable and necessary solution to stability between the houses. For thousands of years, years, the Morag Tong thrived, but it would not be until the end of the First Era during the Riemann dynasty of emperors that they would become a name that strikes fear into anyone on Tamriel. The Morag Tong's operations expanded well beyond the borders of Morrowind, and they would take on their highest profile contract during the legendary Fourscore War, an 80-year-long conflict between the Imperial forces of the Riemann Empire and the Dunmer forces of Morrowind. They would be tasked with assassinating Emperor Riemann III. A Red Guard Morag Tong agent named Korda would slit Riemann's throat on the 6th of Sun's Dusk, year 2920 of the First Era. From there, Korda disappeared from Tamriel, living out the rest of her days on the Isle of Venara. Many speculate that it was in fact Versailles Shay, the Sayesi advisor of Riemann, who had conspired to have the Emperor assassinated, but this betrayal would come to bite him in the back over 3 centuries later. Year 324 of the Second Era, Versailles Shay, while in his palace at Saint Charles, is murdered by the Morag Tong, a poetic full circle. However, the Morag Tong felt untouchable, and with great pride they scrawled the words Morag Tong across the walls of the palace in the potentate's very own blood. A decision most unwise, as every sovereign gave the cult's elimination his highest priority, for fear of their own assassination. The Tong were hunted down and suppressed all over Tamriel, hanging on in Morrowind by only a thread. For a whole century, they sunk out of the public imagination, and it is believed at this time that the Dark Brotherhood splintered from the Tong, creating their own death cult. A Dunmer Tong agent by the name of Ryth Verano lived through these times of strife and worked for centuries trying to restore the Morag Tong's reputation with the Great Houses. His great work eventually afforded him the position of Grandmaster. He became far too ambitious though, and sought to replace the heads of state, placing the Morag Tong in a position of power. He plotted with 7 other members of the Tong to achieve this goal, but will be stopped by another Morag Tong agent named Nar-Uvirian, who, with the permission of the tribunal god Vivek, would hunt down every member involved, successfully bringing back the head of Grandmaster Ryth. At the end of the Second Era, when Tiber Septim was conquering all of Tamriel, he struck a deal with the Tribunal of Morrowind, called the Armistice, which allowed the Dunmer to keep many of their ancient traditions, such as slavery. This armistice also allowed the Morag Tong to continue their operations within Morrowind, and so they did, right through the Third Era. However, come the Fourth Era and the eruption of Red Mountain, the Morag Tong seemingly fell into disrepair, at least for a while. Raven Amayan, a member of the Rift and Thieves Guild in the 201st year of the Fourth Era, was once a member of the Morag Tong, and he says the assassins had disbanded. But contrary to this, we know the Morag Tong have actually reformed in some capacity, as they were enlisted by a member of House Hlaalu who wished to see Councillor Morvain of Raven Rock killed. The status of the Morag Tong therefore should be considered active and working, at least within the confines of Morrowind, but whether or not they remain an ancient and sacred institution of legally sanctioned assassins designed to keep house wars from escalating is not known. It's entirely possible that the desperation following the Red Year and the Argonian invasion that the guild has strayed from their initial code of conduct, but that's only speculation. We can't say for sure. Ultimately, the Morag Tong are the most famous assassins guild in all of Tamriel, having ended the Riemann dynasty and spawned the Dark Brotherhood from their ranks, but much more than that, they are one of the most unique institutions that performs the vital role of maintaining Morrowind's stability, allowing its various subcultures in the forms of the Great Houses to challenge each other, adapting, changing and growing without leading to the collapse of the society as a whole. All thanks to Mephala, the teacher of secret arts. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for enjoying the video, and please do give it a like if you love the content. But before you do, remember to subscribe and also answer me this question in the comments below. If you were to join an Assassin's Guild, who would it be and why? The Dark Brotherhood or the Morag Tong? Thanks again for watching, guys. My name is Scott from FudgeMuppet, and I'll be back to nerd out with you again next time.